It is viewers like you that make videos like this possible. Please support MickeyMousePark.com. Walt Disney and his staff didn't invent the monorail on an elevated track concept. Various monorails had been successfully built and demonstrated in America since 1876, the year a steam-powered monorail debuted in Philadelphia Centennial Exposition.
One of the original drawings for Disneyland showed a monorail going across the entrance. It was a hanging monorail because at the time that's what people thought of as a monorail. Then he started researching it. He was in Germany. He went to one town where they had a swinging monorail that had been there for many decades. It took people down and over a river. And his wife Lillian got a bit ill on it because it swung and she didn't really like it. So that kind of made Walt put that on the back burner. During the same trip, he's driving, and just at that instant, a monorail goes flying by from one end to another. But what it was is he saw for the first time the Alweg monorail, which put the monorail on top of the beam as opposed to below the beam. The thing was actually working, and he was really impressed. He thought the idea was really neat. He didn't like the monorails. They looked like, as Bob Gurr, who did design the Disneyland monorail, said, like a loaf of bread. But he loved the idea. So he made a deal with Alweg. Alweg came. They were starting to work with Roger Broggie and Bob Gurr to put it together.
Walt came back from that first trip, handed me a bunch of drawings of, here's a monorail, we're going to do a monorail. Remember, this is in early November of 1958, and we're going to open this train the following June. Only 8.5 months from the time Walt showed me this picture until I gave Richard Nixon, the Vice President of the United States, a ride. He's got Mrs. Nixon and the two girls, and he comes up to take a look at the train.
To open the first operative monorail system in America, it is our good fortune to have our friend and fellow Californian, the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Richard Nixon, and his charming family, Mrs. Pat Nixon, Julia, and Patricia, his daughters. Mr. Nixon, our Vice President.
Well, thank you very much, Walt. Since this first monorail system is a system for the future, and since, of course, Disneyland is a place which children love above everybody else, I think it would be nice if our two daughters, Patricia and Julie, would cut this ribbon.
Go right up there. And let her go.
So we got into the cab, and Walt's explaining about the monorail, and says, well, you know, Dick, I drive the steam trains, but this is a modern electric train. I always let Bobby drive it. And then he says, give him a ride. And without telling anybody anything or getting on the radio, I just drove off. Which, to Nixon's great joy and surprise, when those days the train went out, made a right turn, turned around, came back over the subride where you could actually see the platform. Nixon apparently saw all the Secret Service was on the platform, which now I was horrified. I just kidnapped the Vice President of the United States right out from underneath the Secret Service.
Logical forefront with the introduction of the Mark I monorail system in 1959. This was the first passenger-carrying monorail of its kind in the Western Hemisphere to operate on a daily basis. And it was the direct result of one of Walt Disney's commitments to develop an entertaining attraction that also provided a practical, futuristic mode of transportation. In 1958, Disney Imagineers traveled to Europe to examine an experimental monorail developed by the Alweg Corporation near Cologne, Germany. After considerable study, they recommended to Walt Disney that he introduce a similar model at Disneyland. Disney designers, assisted by Alweg engineers, developed what became known as the Mark I, a monorail system built at the Burbank Disney Studios by WED. WED stands for Walter Elias Disney Enterprises, the design and Imagineering arm of Walt Disney Productions. The Mark I was purposely designed to demonstrate operability under different topographic conditions. The Disneyland Alweg monorail system was unveiled at Disneyland on June 14, 1959 by Walt Disney and Vice President Richard M. Nixon. Mrs. Nixon and their daughters Tricia and Julie also participated in the ribbon-cutting ceremonies, which were viewed by a national television audience watching a special Disneyland 59 TV show. The monorail beamway was extended to the nearby Disneyland Hotel in 1961, making the system the first in America to run adjacent to a major highway and cross a city street, a total length of nearly 2.5 miles. The present monorail system at Disneyland, the Mark III, was designed by WED to accommodate a growing Disneyland audience. In 1969, after almost 5 years of research and development, 4 new streamlined 5-car trains were built to replace the earlier models that had carried over 30 million passengers more than 850,000 miles in 10 years. The Mark III trains contain 127 passengers and are 137 feet long. A new frame and body for the trains was designed to be driven by an advanced engineered electrical power unit, and a new suspension system created a smoother ride. The Mark III has a top running speed of approximately 35 miles per hour, although it seems to be going a lot faster. But this speed is used only for crossing the Disneyland parking lot. Within the park, the trains run between 15 and 18 miles per hour. Utilizing an air and dynamic braking system, the Mark III drive and braking pneumatic tires run on the top surface of the monorail beamway, and the guiding and stabilizing wheels contact both lateral surfaces of the beam. The Disneyland monorail system has changed greatly over the years, but many of the same technological principles have been maintained throughout the development of the system. The trains have always been electrically powered, operating on 600 volts of direct current, transmitted along a pair of copper and steel bus bars mounted on the right side of the beam. The monorail is powered by 4 100-horsepower traction motors, in contrast to the 4 55-horsepower motors of the Mark I and II. The undercarriage of the trains straddles the beam in such a way that the drive and braking wheels run along the top surface of the beamway, and the guiding and stabilizing wheels contact both lateral surfaces of the beam. These wheels, 8 rolling in a horizontal plane and 4 rolling in a vertical plane, are connected together by means of a welded steel frame. The forms from which the individual beams were cast are steel shells that can be adjusted to produce curving, twisting concrete girders. Most of the beams on the Disneyland monorail range in length from 32 to 42 feet. Beams of this length measure 20 inches wide by 34 inches deep and have a design strength of 5,000 pounds per square inch. However, 50 beams, each 60 feet long, were used on the straightaway across Harbor Boulevard and across the parking lot. Each of these 50 beams weighs 46,000 pounds. To maintain the design strength of these beams, it was necessary to increase their depth to 40 inches. The beamways and pylons, as constructed for the Disneyland Alweg monorail system, are substantially the same size and scale that would be used for any metropolitan single-track system. The basic design of the cars, including their motive power, braking, and safety systems, could be utilized for any metropolitan transit system.
Some 80 years after the Philadelphia Centennial Exposition, Alweg, a design company named for the initials of its Swedish founder, Dr. Axel Lernart Werner Gren, began testing advanced monorail train and track designs in Germany. The debut of the magnificent monorail in June of 1959 was an auspicious moment in Disneyland history. Of the 3 new e-ticket vehicles that began running that month, the monorail was the only one intended to be a serious advance in American transportation. The other 2 attractions were no doubt wonderful, but the monorail was especially significant. So significant, in fact, that Vice President Nixon was on hand for the ribbon-cutting honors. So significant, it was awarded a special plaque by the American Society of Mechanical Engineers in 1986. So significant that the monorail service was actually expanded to cover more than 3 times its original length. While other vehicles made memories, the monorail made history. When a vacationing Walt Disney saw a boxy monorail train run on a rural test track near Cologne in 1957, he quickly partnered with Alweg to construct a new streamlined Disneyland version. "I think the monorail is going to be the rapid transit of the future," Disney said, "and we will be giving a preview of it." Disney legend Bob Gurr, who designed most of the park's vehicles, created a tapered, futuristic train that would be as exhilarating to watch as it would be to ride. John Hinch enhanced Gurr's pencil drawings with color and effects to make the monorail look like a horizontal rocket ship. Roger Broggie and his engineering team built the first monorail at the Disney Studios, and Bill Martin laid out the track approximately where the Viewliner had been. The monorail only ran around Tomorrowland from 1959 through 1961, when it was extended to the Disneyland Hotel. The initial cost to build the monorail was $1.4 million. In 2022 dollars, it would be over $14.4 million.
A sleek train with a rocket ship nose, stainless steel side panels, and the famous bubble top up front. For nearly 40 years, Gurr developed more than 100 designs for attractions. These ranged from the mine trains to the bobsleds, from the Main Street vehicles to the Omnimover ride system for the Haunted Mansion and adventure through inner space, and the amazing People Mover. In this 1958 footage, the concrete for the monorail beams was being poured into steel frames at what is now the Circle D Ranch, the pony farm at the back of the park. The method for pouring the cement was controversial at the time, but it considerably shortened the time to build the monorail beamway. The Alweg engineers wanted to build custom forms for every beam, as was their prior practice in their factory, which is where Walt, by chance, happened upon a working monorail while traveling through Germany just outside the Alweg plant. John Wise, Disneyland's chief engineer for the project, came up with a series of flexible molds seen here that were adjustable in 24-inch segments so as to provide curvature and twist to each custom-made beam. The metal mold segments were lined with rubber sheeting to create a smoother contour. To this day, one can still see the 24-inch mold marks on the beam. The monorail became the first in the world to be a daily operating transportation system and the first to cross over a public street. The trains grew during the 1961 expansion from 3 cars to 4. By the mid-1960s, a fleet of Mark II trains came into being, with the addition of Monorail Yellow. The Mark IIIs were introduced in 1968 for the first new Tomorrowland. The Mark IVs were built exclusively for Walt Disney World in 1971.
For all these Imagineers, the goal wasn't merely to create an attraction for fun, stylish sightseeing. It was to create a meaningful alternative to public transportation and all-electric train that would glide smoothly and silently along an elevated highway in the sky and convey guests in and out of Disneyland interior. But that's not how the monorail first operated. When it opened, there was only one 3-car train called Monorail Red. Trains have usually been identified by their colors, and there was only one stop next to the submarines in Tomorrowland. This meant that only 82 passengers, not hundreds at a time, were starting and stopping at the same point from the Tomorrowland station. Guests looped for 0.8 of a mile around the lagoon, Autopia, and Matterhorn Mountain. The view even included some of Anaheim. It was a scenic journey, but not a vital one.
Ticket book holders, please tear out an e-coupon and present it to the operator before boarding the speed ramp to the monorail platform. If you do not have a ticket book, individual tickets may be purchased at the central ticket booth a few steps away. There are 2 lines forming, one on the left and one on the right. Please watch your step as you board the speed ramp.
Monorail 1, you're now clear for dispatch. Roger, control.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Disneyland Alweg monorail. This is the pilot speaking to you from the control center. During our journey, we ask that you keep your head and arms inside the train at all times and no smoking, please. You're riding aboard the Mark III, an advanced new second-generation design of the first daily operating monorail system in the Western Hemisphere, introduced right here in Disneyland in 1959. We're traveling over the highway in the sky on a 2.5-mile round trip to the Disneyland Hotel and back. Our route parallels Orange County's Harbor Boulevard, a major access route which you probably use to enter the Magic Kingdom. We're cruising at a height of 20 feet above the ground, and we're maintaining constant radio communication with our dispatching station. I'll be increasing our ground speed as we cross Disneyland's 115-acre parking area, our freeway retreat, as many of you have called it. Across the parking area is Disneyland's main entrance. In the opposite direction, you can see the city of Anaheim's Convention Center. Directly ahead is the spacious Disneyland Hotel, offering complete year-round resort facilities for your enjoyment.
Monorail 1 on hotel approach. Roger 1, hotel station clear for approach.
We'll be making a brief stop at the hotel station. For those of you who boarded our monorail in Tomorrowland, this is the halfway point. You may disembark if you wish, and by having your hand stamped, you may reboard the monorail here at the hotel any time prior to Disneyland's closing time today. This is the Disneyland Hotel station. Those of you disembarking, please exit to the rear of the monorail.
Monorail 1, you are clear for hotel dispatch. 10-4 control.
We are now on a re-entry course back into the Magic Kingdom. Destination, Tomorrowland, world of the future. We'll soon be passing Disneyland's main entrance, the gateway to Main Street, USA, where turn-of-the-century America is relived. Above the entrance is Disneyland Main Street Station. Our 1890 steam trains depart from here and stations in Frontierland and Tomorrowland for a grand circle tour of the Magic Kingdom, climaxed by a journey through the Grand Canyon and primeval world, realm of the dinosaurs. Disneyland's new Tomorrowland is a world on the move, a showcase for the wonderful worlds of science and industry, where some of America's leading companies welcome you into adventures in transportation, communications, and better living. Below our monorail is the Autopia Freeway, where youngsters of all ages drive real gasoline-powered cars, and the colorful Submarine Lagoon, home of the world's 8th largest submarine fleet. Towering high above is Matterhorn Mountain, with its 2 thrilling bobsled runs.
Monorail 1, 1020 at Checkpoint Fantasyland. Roger 1, we have your 1020.
We're now entering Fantasyland, home of Snow White, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and many others of your favorite Walt Disney characters. Fantasyland is also the enchanting home of It's a Small World, the happiest cruise that ever sailed around the world. Now we are leaving the world of fantasy to begin our approach to the Tomorrowland station. As we round the Matterhorn, please keep your head and arms inside the compartment.
Monorail 1 on Tomorrowland approach.
Roger 1, Tomorrowland station, clear for approach.
10-4, Monorail 1 out.
Please remain seated until the monorail comes to a complete stop. The doors will open automatically. As you step from the compartment...
This is the Disneyland Hotel station. Those of you leaving us here, please exit to the rear of the monorail. For those of you continuing on, our next and final stop is the Tomorrowland station, where all...
Monorail 1, you're clear for hotel dispatch. 10-4 control.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. To those of you who have just joined us, welcome aboard the Disneyland Monorail, America's first daily operating monorail system. We ask that you keep your hands and arms inside the cabin at all times, and no smoking, please.
You might be struck with about 4 of those lines just about that long.
We're now on a re-entry course back into the Magic Kingdom. Destination, Tomorrowland, world of the future. We'll soon be passing Disneyland's main entrance, the gateway to Main Street, USA, where turn-of-the-century America is relived. Above the entrance is Disneyland's main station.
Go ahead and reset the envelope of that.
Tomorrowland, may I remind you to please keep your hands and arms inside the cabin be a freeway where youngsters and ages drive real gasoline-powered cars. In the our Disneyland submarine fleet explores the fascinating world of liquid space. Towering high above is Matterhorn Mountain, where sleek bobsleds race through icy caverns and crystal caves.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a reminder that Disneyland will be open this evening until 12 midnight. For your convenience, the last monorail of the evening departs the Tomorrowland station for the hotel promptly at 12 midnight. In the meantime, we'll have a train leaving the station approximately once every 3 to 5 minutes. Further reminder for those of you who leave the park, wish to return today, please have your hands down as you exit the park. Thank you, and enjoy the day at Disneyland.
Winds around quite a bit, don't it? Yeah, right around the park.
Monorail 1, 1020 is Checkpoint Fantasyland. Roger 1, we have your 1020.
We're now entering Fantasyland, home of Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and many other favorite Disney characters. Fantasyland is also the enchanting home of It's a Small World, the happiest cruise that ever sailed. We're now leaving the world of fantasy and approaching our final destination, the Tomorrowland station, where all passengers will be disembarking. As we round the Matterhorn, please keep your head and arms inside the cabin.
Monorail 1 on Tomorrowland approach. Roger 1, Tomorrowland station clear for approach. 10-4, Monorail 1 out.
Please remain seated until the monorail comes to a complete stop. The doors will open automatically. Please make sure you have all your personal...
For this official opening of America's first monorail system, Walt Disney introduces the principal speaker for the occasion, the Vice President of the United States. Here also for the dedication are many notable guests. There's Robert Cummings, June Haver and Fred McMurray watching as two young ladies, Julie and Tricia Nixon, cut the ribbon with special scissors that just won't cooperate. Well, when there's a timetable to keep, other methods are necessary. Gliding smoothly along its concrete beamway, this highway in the sky passes above Autopia's 4 new super freeways. The beamway winds through Tomorrowland at various heights above ground level. Its intricate signal system is controlled electronically. Now we're speeding above another new adventure, the motorboat cruise. Approaching the Matterhorn, Disneyland's man-made mountain. Every conformation and outline of the famous Matterhorn in Switzerland has been duplicated to scale. On this day, it'll be dedicated and officially opened. In fact, crowds have already gathered at the mountain's base for the start of the festivities. As the monorail completes its run, the engineer signals to another horn blower for the ceremonies to begin.
The monorail system was a first in America. It points the way to rapid transit of the future.
Specs: capacity 2100 per hour, capacity per monorail 110, cycle time 9 minutes 20 seconds, load time 2 minutes 30 seconds, unload time 2 minutes 30 seconds, trip time 7 minutes 30 seconds, dispatch interval 3 minutes 5 seconds, trips per hour 19, distance traveled 12,280 feet, speed 20 miles per hour. Monorail being switched to the track to the roundhouse. Monorails in the roundhouse. Control panel in the cockpit. Certificate of recognition. Earned Your Wings certificate.